This one mistake could be the reason why your dog's misbehaving. So many people try to force a dog to behave. They get frustrated on the fact that the dog's been doing this or they've been doing that. They get so frustrated, they try and force him into doing the right behaviour. But if you force a dog to do anything, then they see it as a chore. And if you give a dog a choice to do a chore or not, they're not gonna. What we need to do is make your dog want to behave. Because then when they're given the choice, they're gonna think, well, it's my idea in the first place. Of course I want to do it. The thing with dogs is, dogs just do what works for them. Every behaviour that they do is just their way of trying to get the best outcome that they can possibly get. How a dog learns is, first they see something, and then they choose a behaviour, whether it's to bark or to run or to jump up or whatever, and then they get an outcome. If that's positive, then they're going to want to keep doing that behaviour. If it's negative, then they're not going to want to do that behaviour. And then based on that outcome, they're going to remember, and they're either going to keep doing it going forward, or they're going to stop doing it going forward. So, pretty much all your dog's asking every time they do something was that worth it? Like, for example, if a dog jumps up and we give him attention, the dog thinks, oh, I like attention, it worked. So then they're going to keep doing it. Or if anything, they're going to want to do it even more. If a dog jumps up and then we completely ignore them, the dog gets nothing. They're like, why did I bother wasting the energy trying to jump up? I'm not going to do that again. Something you have to understand about dogs is they don't even know what misbehaving is. Misbehaving is a term that we use to say that we don't like something. But a dog doesn't understand that. They only understand the outcomes. A dog doesn't understand what being naughty or rude or disrespectful or annoying is. All a dog understands is doing this behaviour going to end successfully for me, so positive, or unsuccessfully for me, so negative? But you can think about it with children. If a kid's crying for attention, and the parent gives them that attention, the kid learns that crying works. So then whenever they want attention, that's what they're going to do. If a kid cries and the parent doesn't give them attention because they know they're trying to push their luck or they're being spoiled, whatever, then first, the kid will probably try a bit harder. They might be a bit more dramatic, they might be a bit louder, whatever. But then when the parent, I might have said owner earlier, when the parent completely ignores that, it's like, oh, what's the point of doing this? Let me try something else. If it doesn't work, they're not going to do it. And because dogs have the mental age of about a 3-year-old, a good way to think about them is as if it was a kid. So if they do something and it works for them, they're going to keep doing it. If it doesn't work for them, they're going to stop doing it. Now, where a lot of people go wrong is they try to just punish a dog. So they tell them off, so they shout, they might do some heavy lead corrections, they might try and intimidate them, they might build frustration, whatever. But all this does is say, don't do that, but it doesn't give them an option of what they should be doing. It might stop them from doing the bad behaviour, but it doesn't tell them what the good behaviour is. So all it's going to do is frustrate a dog because they don't know what they're doing wrong, confuse them, and it's not really going to fix a behaviour, it's just going to kind of maintain them not doing a bad behaviour. What we want to do is completely flip it and make them want to do a good behaviour. Because if all you do is tell them off all the time, then yeah, they might stop doing the bad behaviour, but they're not going to be a happy dog. They're not going to enjoy their time. We want to flip it so in their mind they think, oh, I like walking nicely next to this person, or I like not running away. Whenever he calls me, I like coming back. Oh, I don't like jumping up. If we can get him to think all of these things, and it's in his mind, he thinks, I like doing this, then everything becomes so much better because we actually have a happy dog and we can enjoy our relationship together. So what you need to do, first of all, before anything, is raise the value of the good choices. So if you're trying to do recall, you need to teach them that coming back always gives them what they want. So that's food, that's play, that's praise, that's fun. You want to make it so they know that every single time something good's going to come from coming back to you. Where a lot of people go wrong is they tell, let's say the dog's off lead and they call them back 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and the dog's just not coming back. On the 8th or the 9th time when they eventually do come back, we got sparks coming out our ears and we're angry at them. We start telling them off. Why didn't you come back them other times? Da 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 da. But because dogs live in the moment, all he thinks is, why are you telling me off? I did come back. So going forward, he's going to think, I don't want to go back to that guy. He's just going to tell me off again. We need to flip it and we need to be the fun one. Yeah, it might take him a little while to come back at first. But if he knows every time he comes back is fun, he gets treats, he gets strokes, he gets praise, he gets played with a toy, everything adds up to being worth it to him. It's the same with loose lead walking, same with calmness. If every time he's calm he gets attention and affection and he gets all of these things that he wants, then he's going to want to be calm. Same with anything. If we can make him think that doing the behaviour that we want gets him what he wants, then that's worth it to him. The next thing you need to do is lower the value of the bad choices. So that means stopping the rewards completely. If they jump up, they don't get any more attention anymore, they don't get spoken to, they don't get looked at, they don't get nothing. So in their mind, what's the point of jumping up? If they're barking for attention, you completely ignore them. If they're doing all these other things, you need to make sure that you're not accidentally saying good job for doing that. So don't give them any positives, don't speak to them, don't look at them, don't touch them, don't do any of that. Now if you want to make this even better, you can tell them off as long as they understand what it actually means. If you just say, no, don't do that, well, funnily enough, your dog doesn't speak English, so he doesn't have a clue what you're saying. If you've taught him that a spray bottle means you're doing something wrong. Or if you've introduced spatial pressure to him, where you walk in and claim his space, which makes him uncomfortable and teaches him that it's not worth it no more. Or if you've taught him how to understand what the lead means, then all of these things are going to be able to be a way for you to tell your dog off in a clear way that they're going to understand, which just lowers the value of doing the bad behaviour altogether. So in their mind, they're like, well, when I pull, I don't get any of the positives, and I get told off in a way I understand. That's not worth it no more. And then when I don't pull, I walk next to him, and I get treats, I get strokes, I get praise, I get everything I want. So in their mind, they've made the decision. I haven't forced them to walk next to me. I've just made walking out in front not worth it to them no more. They've had to make the decision to come back to me. They've chosen to walk nicely next to me, and now everything works out in their favour. And like I said, you don't want to force a dog to do anything. If you force them, they're not really trained, they're just contained. You need to train a dog so then they understand that what you want from them is actually the right thing to do, and what you want from them actually works out in their favour. So let's do a quick recap. If your dog's doing something that you don't like, the first thing you need to do is completely stop giving them any of the positives for it, even if they're accidental. So don't talk to them, don't touch them, don't give them eye contact, don't give them anything that could accidentally reinforce the behaviour that they're doing, because we don't want them to do that anymore. So now that doing that behaviour to them is worth nothing. So technically they should stop doing it. But to make it even more motivating for them, we can also add a negative whenever they do the bad behaviour, as long as it's been added clearly first. If your dog doesn't understand a lead correction, then you can't be using it, because it's just going to create more confusion. If your dog understands it, or if your dog understands spatial pressure, or if your dog understands a spray bottle, you can use this to even further lower the value of the bad behaviour. So now it's not worth a 7 like it was before, because you've stopped giving all the positives, so that's worth a 0. But then on top of that, when you add the negatives to it, that's worth a -8. So then your dog's mind, I never want to do this again. And then on top of that, if we can redirect wherever they want to be doing, if we can redirect that towards a positive, so if they're jumping up, we can redirect it to them all 4 feet on the ground, or if they're pulling, we can redirect it to them being next to us. When we give them this guidance and we reward them for it, so we say, good job for being there, here's treats, here's praise, here's toys, here's strokes. If we can give them all the positives that they wanted to get from doing the behaviour, but we give them to them when they're doing the behaviour that we want, it's going to get to a point where the behaviours that we want him to do, he understands that ends the best for him anyway, so he just chooses to do them. Now the reason why you don't just want to tell a dog off for doing the bad thing is because if you give a correction without direction, it just leads to confusion. If we say, don't do that, but we never give them a do this instead, then they just feel lost. They haven't got a clue what to do, and it just creates, like I said, confusion, and if anything, that frustration can cause them to misbehave in another area. If when they're pulling, I tell them off when they're at the end of the lead, and then I praise them when they come back to me, and they're like, oh, this is easy, he wants me here instead. This ends the best for me, so I'm going to stay here instead. That's how simple it can be. But if you just give a correction without that direction, then like I said, it's just going to lead to confusion. So here's a few practical tips for you. The first one is, you want to set your dog up to succeed. So, especially at the beginning, don't go to these busier areas, don't try and add all these other distractions, because it is just going to confuse them. Go to these calmer areas, and then as they get better and better, gradually start to increase the level of distractions. Also, you need to be using high value rewards, especially based on what your dog likes. If your dog doesn't care for treats but they love a toy, don't try and reward them with treats. I don't care what you see on Instagram, what you see on TikTok. If your dog likes toys, reward them with toys. Same the other way around. If your dog hates toys, don't bother bringing one out with you. Now the next tip is something that we call setting your dog up to fail so they can succeed. What you do is you give your dog a choice, but you're ready to tell them off if they do the wrong one. So let's say you walk past a rabbit or a squirrel or something, you expect that your dog's going to pull. What you don't do is tense up like this, because then you're not giving them a choice. You're forcing them now, and this is just going to cause them to misbehave like we've been talking about. So you give them the freedom to misbehave, but mentally you're bracing yourself for them to misbehave. So as they do, you give them a correction, or you guide them, or you do the things that we've been going over. And then if they stay next to you, you praise them, stroke them, give them all the rewards. And this way you're giving them the freedom to misbehave, so they can learn that behaving is the right option for them. Also, you want to try and mark things as quick as you can. Dogs live in 3 to 5 second cycles, so every couple of seconds they're thinking something new. So if you can reward them in that cycle, so let's say as soon as he comes back and walks next to you, you start rewarding him. It's easier for him to correlate that being next to you is what got him that reward. Same for the negatives. If he's at the end of the lead and you correct him as soon as he gets to the end, he's like, oh, being at the end of the lead's the bad thing. The quicker you can add the negative or the positive, the easier it's going to be for him to understand it. Also, you want to try and keep training sessions fun and short. This way they're going to be more engaged, they're going to be more excited. And actually, I've got a video going over how to structure a training session next Sunday. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. But also, something I can't stress enough is your corrections need to be fair. Don't get angry at them to give them 8 corrections down the lead, or don't start using corrections that you've never given them before without introducing them the right way. Because all it's going to do is break your bond, have them not see you as a firm leader or a strong leader, because a good leader's fair. So they're going to not see you as the leader anymore. So that means they've got to lead. They've got to make all of the decisions, which will lead to them misbehaving. It's going to break your bonds. They're not going to like you anymore. They're not going to be a happy dog. And if they do end up behaving, it's because they just shut down. They've pretty much turned into a robot now. You don't want that. You obviously love your dog. You obviously want to get it right, or you wouldn't be watching this video. So don't be unfair with your corrections. Make sure you're being as fair as possible. Make sure you're correcting at the right time. Make sure you're not hurting them. And make sure that when they come back to you, when they do the thing that you want, you can't forget to reward them. A lot of people forget the rewards because they're so focused on all the negatives. I hate it when he pulls. I hate it when he jumps up. I hate it when he does this. But we need to focus on the positives, if anything, more than the negatives. If we can motivate him to do the good thing and deter him away from doing the bad thing, everything's going to come together. So here's the key takeaways from today's lesson. Your dog does what works for them. Whenever they do something, they think, does the outcome end positively or negatively for me? If it's positive, they're going to keep doing it. If it's negative, they're going to stop doing it. So we need to raise the value of the good behaviours that we want them to do and lower the value of the bad behaviours that we don't want them to do. So then in their mind, they're going to start choosing to do the good thing that we want them to do. We want them to make a choice because choices create a reliable, happy and willing dog. And that's better for your dog and better for your relationship. But anyway, that's the end of today's video. I hope you learned something. If you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments. If you want to find out more about how to train your dog, you can join my community by going to the link in the description. There's a 7-day free trial, so you've got nothing to lose. I'll see you there.